Welcome to the Art of Vibrancy podcast. It's a place where inspired experts distill their brilliance down into simple, practical advice that you can use right away. It's 8 minutes, it's 4 questions, and it's one practical piece of advice that you can put into use today. Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Art of Vibrancy podcast. Today we've got a real treat for you, a very wise and interesting young man, Mr. Jeff Siegel. How are you today, Jeff? And where are you hanging out? Where are you talking from?
Thanks, Rob, for having me on the show. I am here in Boston, Massachusetts, in the United States.
Great, Boston. I've flown through, but I haven't stayed there, I'm afraid. So I'll tell our audience a little bit about you, Jeff, and then we'll crack on with the interview. You know the score, it's 4 questions in 8 minutes, and I've even got a little timer to keep us on track. So Jeff Siegel, M.Ed, empowers men to grow up and show up at their healthiest so that they can be a benevolent king of their own domain. I love that, a benevolent king of their domain. That's brilliant. He currently runs a wellness coaching practice and teaches mindfulness and meditation at Harvard. Absolutely brilliant, Jeff. Right, I'll start the timer and we'll crack on with the questions. Here we go. Okay, Jeff, what in your experience is the biggest challenge that people face as they age with regard to staying healthy, well, and positive? So they want to change, they know they want to change, but what roadblocks do they put in their own way?
This is a fantastic question. And there's so many ways to approach this, but I would say the number one challenge that I see that people have when it comes to improving their health, improving their body, improving their well-being is a lack of trust. And that is a lack of trust within themselves. I see people that really just don't trust their bodies. They don't trust their bodies to be there when they most need them. And there's so many reasons for this. I think we live in a society that teaches us to distrust our bodies. And especially if you have a body that is disabled or a body of color, there's so many spaces and forces out there that really make it difficult to be in our bodies from this place of trust. And, it makes sense when you see it in that lens that it's really difficult to improve some part of your body if you don't actually trust this beautiful, wonderful mammalian organism that you have to show up and to do the things that it was designed to do.
Right. I like that. That's so people don't trust, they don't listen to their own bodies, they don't believe in themselves enough. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think this kind of gets into the second question of what are some of the common mistakes and misconceptions.
Right, well, let's get straight into the second question then. So what are some of the common mistakes, the misconceptions that people have about solving that problem that they don't trust themselves?
Yeah. Well, I think that the usual way people tend to go about, improving their health and wellness comes from this very sort of top-down imposed mindset, right? You're like, I'm going to adopt this new diet and we're going to follow it and I'm going to be really strict and that's going to, help me lose weight. Or I'm going to, start this new exercise program that somebody wrote for me and I'm going to be really good about doing it every day and I'm just going to make sure, right? But this top-down sort of mindset often, again, is based upon this fundamental mistrust of the body. And I like to say is like, imagine if you're living with somebody, right? And that person that you live with, you don't actually really trust very well, right?
Yeah.
And so you create these rules for that person saying, you're not allowed to do this and you're not allowed to do that, but you can do this only at certain times. And maybe that person follows the rules most of the time, but sometimes they slip up because guess what? They're imperfect, they're human, right? And they slip up and they eat your food or they break your thing or they spend some money that was yours, right? And then what happens is then you freak out and you get caught up in this sort of argument and it's just the same patterns repeat themselves. And I see that to be true within people, within yourself and how they treat their bodies and how they try to go about improving their health and their fitness is the same idea where it's like they try to set up these rules and regulations and they put them in place and they work for a little while until something happens, they don't work, and then you're just sort of back to where you started.
Right. That's fascinating. Yeah, that's a really interesting way of looking at it. I like that. Comparing it to mistrusting someone else, but it being yourself. That's wonderful. So we've got plenty of time left yet. Another 3 minutes. What is the number one tip that you could give to our audience to help them today? So a tangible, specific action that they could actually implement right now.
Yeah. So if we start with this premise of mistrust and distrust of the body, the question that naturally arises is, how do you begin to rebuild trust in your body, right? And there's a lot of really good tools that are out there for that. I'll tell you what's not a good tool. Again, it's sort of setting up these externally imposed rules and regulations.
Right.
Often are not helpful, right? It's like we set up these sanctions to try to enforce a certain type of behavior without addressing the fundamental thing. And I go back to, if you're in a relationship with somebody and you didn't have a lot of trust there, how do you begin rekindling that between the two of you, right? And some of that, I think, really begins with sitting down and listening to each other, right? Understanding where you're coming from, and then beginning to build this shared vision of what you want the future to look like together. And so I actually encourage people to sit down with their bodies and have a conversation. And you can do this through journaling, you can do this through meditation, or just different mindfulness exercises where you learn to start to pay attention to your body and the signals that it's giving you. And you come into conversation with your body, right? Not from this place of control, but again, from this place of collaboration, where you recognize that you two are on the same team. You want the same thing. You want longevity. You want energy. You want vibrancy, right?
Vibrancy,
and it's just, that just changes, right, the orientation of how you do it. And so, and then from there, you start to look for activities that you can do together that are going to help rekindle that trust. There's nothing better than building trust is just like pairing together with somebody to get some job done, right? And this can be in the form of exercise, but it doesn't have to be. But it's like doing little things with your body where you can begin to rely upon it. We are not afraid that like, oh, if I do this thing, my body's going to hurt or fail or not be there for me. Or, I think a lot of us are plagued with so much baggage from our pasts, in times when maybe our bodies didn't show up in the way we wanted them to, or maybe somebody told us that our body wasn't looking or performing or acceptable the way it was. And so again, we begin to distrust parts of ourselves as a result, right? And this is where the personal history and the emotions and the psychology really get ingrained in our body. And we need to work through that, right, to come back into a place where we can reestablish physical health. So it's like bringing in these other dimensions here. Just like I said, there's nothing wrong with like a good, exercise program, but if that is the only piece of your wellness plan without addressing these other elements, you're most likely going to fail.
Yeah, I've got that. Yeah. I love the way you treat your own body as if it was someone else. So you're looking at it from the outside almost. That's really works. Right. We're just about out of time. So last question quickly. What free resource would you like to share with our audience?
Yeah. So I have a free 4-part video series with different lessons that follow this framework of waking up, cleaning up, growing up, and showing up, where I walk you through these 4 different dimensions that I see as these fundamental key places that we can intervene, where we can begin to rebuild this trust with our bodies, when you can begin to kind of work into some of the history and the psychology, as well as the daily habits, those little things that you can do every day to take better care of yourself. So if you visit my website, you can sign up for that Total Transformation video series. And that's just like the best place to get started on this journey for yourself, that reflection and digging in. And then from there, kind of thinking about what are the next steps that are going to help you move forward.
That's great. What's your website? Just say it.
You can visit me at JeffSiegelWellness.com. That's just my name, Jeff, and then Siegel, Siegel, wellness.com. And everything should be right there on the homepage.
Great.
If it's not, we got a problem and I got to go fix something online, but you can be able to find things there.
We'll put a link under all the podcasts wherever people are listening to it, and if they're watching it on the website or wherever. So that was absolutely wonderful, Jeff. Thank you so much for your wisdom. I'm sure our audience are going to love that. So thanks so much, Jeff, and we'll see you soon, okay? Bye for now.
Thank you, Rob. It was a pleasure. And everybody who is listening, I hope you got something helpful out of this. So until we meet, thank you.
Thanks for checking out the Art of Vibrancy podcast. If you like what we're doing here, please head over to iTunes, subscribe, rate us, and leave a review, and I'll love you forever. And if you'd like to try my energy boosting, inflammation busting, brain and body food breakfast, head over to www.breakfastofbrilliance.com and download the recipe today. See you soon. Bye.